This is Billy. Billy's a mid-game player taking Oh, okay, he's already done. Billy's a mid-game player taking advantage of the changes that... Billy, can you just hold on, man?
Okay.
Anyways, he's taking advantage of the changes that came with Project Rebalance last year.
Yes.
Specifically, the new elemental weaknesses that give the standard spellbook's combat spells a few more use cases around the game. Thanks, Billy. Good luck on your chest.
TY.
The combat portion of Project Rebalance focused on things like future-proofing PVM, expanding potential reward space, and making underutilized content a little less obsolete. And now it is time for the summer sweep-up, following in the footsteps of last year's changes. My name is Coxie, and everything you're about to hear will be fully detailed in today's blog post. This sweep-up includes improvements to a wide range of existing content, with a healthy amount of both minor tweaks and substantial ones. First, let's start with the expansion of elemental weaknesses and more changes to NPC defense. The Old School team has been hard at work deciding which NPCs meet the criteria for a specific elemental weakness. For air weakness, floaty and flying things will be the criteria. For water, hot and fiery. Earth spells, they're gonna hit extra hard on monsters with a tough exterior. And fire spells, of course, they'll be useful for icy or more flammable creatures. The blog post will have a lovely spreadsheet listing all of the proposed NPCs for each weakness. So check it out and give us your feedback. And remember, these changes, they're not meant to shake up any of the metas, only to give players more options. Project Rebalance also brought changes in the form of exaggerating some NPCs' already existing weaknesses and adding split range defense. Now we're seeing these concepts proposed for an expanded list of NPCs. On top of this, there's a newer defensive stat called flat armor. An NPC's flat armor directly affects damage, like a flat modifier to every hit splat. For a monster with, let's say, -2 flat armor, 2 damage will be added to every hit splat. This might encourage you to bring a faster weapon, or one that deals multiple hit splats at a time. This is why double hit weapons are such appealing options for NPCs like Nagwas and 2 of the 3 Perilous Moons. They all have negative flat armor value. For a monster with 2 flat armor, maybe bring a weapon with a higher strength bonus to make up for hitting 2 less damage every hit. Let's dive in to the proposed changes to some loot tables. Players head to Vorkath for the good stuff, like alchables, dragon bones, and dragon hides, but you often walk away with thousands of chaos runes. When a resource drops in such high quantities, its value tanks. What we can do to reduce the oversupply of these problem items is to lower the amount that's dropped from some sources, without affecting the main reasons players choose to farm those monsters. Let's look at an example. For a drop of 3 Torstal Seeds to hold the same value as it did before content like Tombs of a Masket and Muspa came into the game, you would need a drop of around 25 Torstal Seeds of them today. This lovely graph shows how the price has fallen over time and how much volume is flooding into the GE. In this sweep up, they're focusing in on certain runes, herbs, seeds, gems, and fish. And speaking of fish, these adjustments also include the introduction of Shark Chum, similar to Diabolic Worms from Yama, to be used as a rate enhancer for shark fishing. The last thing on the drop table agenda to address is, well, Soul Wars crates. Yep. They're going to give you pretty similar resources as the newly adjusted Castle Wars crates, while still keeping the pet rate as is. You can find a full list of the drop table changes linked in the blog post. Don't you worry, we got more PVM changes incoming, and this time to specific pieces of content. Let's start with the good old Fasani's Nightmare, a mechanic-heavy boss fight including 4 nearly identical phases, with an enrage phase to finish it off. I think the general consensus is the fight, it just drags on a little bit too long, so the Old School team is proposing the removal of an early phase. The drop table is not being adjusted alongside this change, meaning the average time to receive any drop will actually go down due to quicker kills. So let the team know what you think, if this is the right direction or not. Now, for my personal favorite, Nex. The proposed changes here are mostly quality of life tweaks that will help make the boss fight more enjoyable. First, your range hits during a phase transition, they'll no longer be nulled entirely. There will be an HP threshold in place so that it won't be absolutely broken in masses, but small teams will be able to deal some extra damage instead of waiting for the phase change. Next up, the team are looking for ways to allow skilled players to reduce their incoming damage at Nex with some coordination. Firstly, allowing players to heal up during downtime phases. This will be done by adding a healing mechanic for damage dealt to Blood Reavers. Second, making her melee attacks happen at least 3 times before switching to magic. Meaning, if she uses a melee attack on you, she'll be guaranteed to use 2 more before swapping. And finally, allowing players to mitigate some of the damage from her magic attack in the final phase if you're late on the prayer switch. Next up, the team's looking to make some adjustments to each of the puzzle rooms and bosses in Tombs of Amascut. For the full list of changes being proposed here, check out the Summer Sweep Up blog post. Don't you think we're only focused on in-game bosses? It is time to look at the big Huey. First, a simple change to the tail phase to add some clear visuals and reduce its hit points a bit. Then, the Dragon Hunter wand is definitely due for some improvements. We're going to add bonus damage against dragons increase from 20 to 40%, bonus accuracy against dragons from 50 to 75%, ability to autocast ancients, and finally, making the wand 3 times more common from Huey. Also, the crafting requirement to make Huey hide armor will be adjusted, so that it will become an easier to craft but harder to obtain alternative to Black Dragon Hide. Heading over to the Perilous Moons, the team over at Jagex has their sights set on improving click boxes to each of the bosses, and fixing up the fishing and the hunter activities. They're also taking a look at toning down the Blue Moon's tornadoes in the Brazier phase, since most players choose not to interact with the mechanic at all. For the newer players that are looking to complete Moons of Peril for those nice rewards, a new defensive ring is being proposed to help you be just a bit more tanky against bosses like these. This ring will come from the much neglected Deranged Archaeologist and boast a helpful plus 20 in melee defense bonuses. Compared to the Imbued Ring of Suffering, which provides prayer bonus and defensive bonuses against range and magic alongside its recoil effect. And while we're on the topic of defensive rings, the Granite Ring will see a boost in range defense bonus to help make it a little bit more useful around the game. Next up, a welcome change to our ancient friends Obor and Bryophyta to boost their usefulness and help make combat achievements feel less like a chore. They'll no longer require a key. Instead, the keys will open a rewards chest in the respective layers after you've defeated the boss. Their existing drop table will be moved to these chests, while the bosses themselves will have a reduced, simple loot table, resembling that of their normal variants. They'll also have a chance of dropping new giant bones, which can be buried for prayer XP, and of course, keys to their respective chests. The recent changes to our lovely Slayer boss Sire was received with great feedback. So next up, we're looking at some minor adjustments to Cerberus. Lava pools will now be easier to react to. Their damage radius is limited to 1 tile. Keymaster teleports will be more common and tradable. Master Clue enjoyers, have fun getting a new triple step. The Ward of Arceus will now include a 30% prayer drain reduction. Spend less time collecting prayer pots and more time PVMing. The community's been pretty vocal about loving Duke's little companion pet, but having to prep every single kill can get a tad bit tedious. We're proposing the ability to prep 3 kills in advance and to balance it, increasing the boss HP by 10%. But fear not, this will still lead to a slight increase in kills per hour. Finally, some rapid-fire miscellaneous changes. Rallos specking has become widely popular among in-game bosses, but only has a 5-tile range. We're looking to increase it by 1 to 6 tiles to give you just a little bit more breathing room. Demonbane weaponry will now work on Ice Demon and Chambers. Desert Treasure 2 bosses will drop 3 pieces to their respective vestige, instead of the invisible rolls that are currently happening. Now, you personally can see how close you are to completing a vestige. Visual delay in player movement will be removed in PvM scenarios from certain magic attack animations from spells and powered staves. Halberds will soon be usable to fight flying NPCs that you can't otherwise reach with melee weapons, like Aviancies. Inferno speedrunners, rejoice. Players with Grandmaster CAs can now show their Zuck helmet to the Tazar. This will effectively allow you to benefit from enabled Slayer Helm and off-task Inferno. But keep in mind, no XP will be gained and no Slayer boosted pet rolls. Last, but definitely not least, Thrall's 2-minute timer will be moved from Grandmaster to Master Tier of Combat Achievements. Whew, that is a lot of changes. For a more detailed list of everything included, check the blog and let us know how you're feeling about this year's Summer Sweep Up.